Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Fat Muscle Project podcast. I'm John Gorman, joined once again by Lisa Franz. Lisa, what's going on? How are you?
Hi, John. I'm very well. Thank you. How are you doing?
Good, even though right before we hit record on this, we were trying to figure out what day of the week it was. So, other than that, we're all running and gunning, but hey, so is life for those of us that are coaches and entrepreneurs. And this is going to be a fun podcast. And before I introduce our special guest, Renee, I do want to say that these are now starting to drop every few weeks, like every couple weeks. These will be dropping. If you guys want to message us, really, Lisa's the main one. Like she puts all these show notes together and the ideas and the different people. But if you want to hear other coaches, if you want to hear different topics, just look at the show notes. You can see my email. Lisa's is in there as well. Hit us up. Let us know what you want to hear, and we will get it on the schedule. So, this topic today, I think, is going to be great. I'm going to introduce Renee, and this was her baby. Like when we got a hold of Renee, we're like, "Hey, we want you to be on the podcast. What do you want to talk about?" This was hers, and I love this because we didn't think about this topic. And the way I'm going to frame it real quick is, this is something to where whether you're a coach and you have clients, or you're a client that wants to work with a coach, or you're a client that works with a coach now, this is going to show everyone how to maximize their results all the way around. And I think this is just an invaluable podcast. And this is probably one I'm going to save and I'm going to send to people when they send me questions. I'm going to say, hey, refer to this podcast. So I'm getting long winded. Let me introduce Renee. I have known Renee since I met her at our bodybuilding seminar in Des Moines in 2021, right, Renee? Like that's when we met, was
I think
2021.
that was the year. Yeah.
It was. You had just finished up prep. I had a fat muscle boost set up, and it was me and Ryan Irwin and Cliff Wilson, and we set up a seminar because it got canceled due to COVID in 2020. So I got to meet you there, and you had finished up your preps, and you're going to off season, and you got a hold of me, and you wanted to see if I was taking on clients, and we started working together. And the cool thing is, not only have we worked together through really good off seasons, a hell of a prep in 2024 with I can't even count the class wins that you had that year and people inspired. I got to work with your family too, your husband Mike, your son Bo. I apologize now for the food bill that you all went through in 2023, 2022,
Yeah. Thanks a
2023,
lot.
and 2024. That young man was eating so much food on top of you also eating a ton of food. But I really got to know Renee as a person, as an athlete, and as an entrepreneur. She owns one of the best marketing agencies around, homegrown, built, very, very successful entrepreneur and businesswoman. But then what happened is this last year at the Fat Muscle Academy, every single year we pick somebody to win a year of sponsorship. And it doesn't matter if they're the best athlete in the world, the best coach in the world, if they spend the most money, none of that. It's who embodies what Fat Muscle Project's all about. And each year we've picked a person. Last year it was Carrie Ferris. First year was Josh Michaels. So Renee got picked for that based on just how she represented the brand. So she's a sponsored individual. But the way, Renee, I look at you really is I look at you more as a sponsored coach these days. And that's what I really want to get into next. And then let you talk a little bit because I just keep blabbing. You have really stepped up your game. Your progress as an athlete has been top level, 10 out of 10, but your coaching has picked up and you've grown a coaching business so fast because of how good you are and what your clients have accomplished and what you've accomplished yourself. I look at you as a coach. That's the way I look at you now, even though you and I are working together with you as an athlete. In my mind, I see you as a coach. So I wanted to introduce you to our viewing audience because we have a lot of people that don't know all of the details. Is there anything that I left out? Do you want to talk about any of the business side to also let people know what you also do full time besides coaching?
Oh, well, what an introduction. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
I'm so honored to be able to work with you as an athlete and that you said yes to bringing me on board all those years ago. So I'm so grateful for that. And I think we'll go into that a little bit more into our topic today. But I would say, my full-time job, I own a marketing and advertising agency here in the Des Moines area. I've had it, it's been my baby. I grew it out of my my bedroom actually. Like I just had a desk in the corner of my bedroom and I borrowed money from my parents to buy my first laptop so I could do some work, and grown it from there. And now I have a wonderful employee base, and some fantastic clients that are some household names. So I'm really proud of the work that my team and I have done for some of our clients. And I have such an amazing team that they have allowed me to be able to have some time freedom to be able to take on coaching clients and to be able to live my passion for health and fitness and share that with the world and whoever will have me as their coach. So I owe that freedom to all of my team members who understand who I am inside as well as, a passionate health and fitness individual, and they let me share that. So
What I would love to hear, or what I would love for you to introduce us to, is when you started competing, how many competitions you have done, and your biggest successes as a competitor so far.
I started competing back in 2021. I had a very successful season my first year. I did 3 shows that year. And then I took a 3 year off season and just competed it's been a year now. Actually, as of last weekend, it's been
Yeah.
exactly a year since I started, or since I competed last. And I did 4 shows my last season, 2 regional shows, qualified for nationals, did 2 national shows out in Pittsburgh, and pretty successful. I mean, I've got the fire lit now because I got third place 3 times, or second place rather, 3 times. So
Oh,
just narrowly missed my pro card, but that fire is lit and I'm going to get it next time. So we're
very
working hard this season.
awesome. Well, I think that makes you so qualified to talk about what we're going to talk about today, which is how to maximize your results as a client, but also obviously that is connected with maximizing your results as a coach, because if you have successful clients, you're going to be more successful as a coach too. So, yeah, I'm really excited to get into this topic today.
I've got a real quick question before we start hitting some of the bullet points here in the show notes. Renee, how important do you think this is as a coach, but as a client? What have you learned from your successful marketing and advertising agency with working with clients, right? Like, how did that help you kind of fast track to when you started coaching? Because there's a whole world of experience that you built working with people at an elite level, especially now. How did that help you start to coach clients?
Well, you have to be honest and authentic and transparent with people. And I think that's really at the root of it. If people see you as very trustworthy because you're honest and you tell them exactly what they want to hear, or not what they want to hear, but what they need to know, that's really just going to build trust and credibility. And I think that's going to go a long way.
So the last thing I want to say, everything you just said, people need to hear honesty, right? Well,
Yes.
coaches listening and you want to be a successful coach, you don't have to do it that way. You can tell them a bunch of bullshit, but let me tell you right now, you're not going to have a successful business. So Renee just proved that. Like she's obviously built a massively successful advertising business. Her coaching business is, I will go on record to say, I'm trying to think of how fast Cliff and I grew, and Jason Theobald, because I know what those numbers look like because we were all growing our businesses at the same time. And it was from 3 to 4 to skyrocket within, 6 months. I know what Renee's are because Renee and I share that information together and we just talk about business as friends. And her business has grown as fast as mine, as Jason Theobald's did, as Cliff Wilson's did. And we've got a long tenured track record. So to see someone grow a coaching business these days that fast, where everybody's a coach, it's all based on these foundational things that Renee is going to bring to the table today. So I say all that to kind of set this up and let Lisa kind of take the reins and steer us through this.
Yeah, amazing. So as we want to talk about how to maximize your results as a coach and a client or both, Renee, what in your opinion makes someone coachable?
Gosh, you really just have to be willing to learn and trust the process and be open-minded. Um, you don't always have to, question the process and things like that. So I think that that's really the most important thing is forget what you know. You hired a coach for a reason. Go ahead and learn as much as you possibly can, soak it all in, and just be open-minded to trusting the process.
I know there's been times where I've gotten clients to where they're established. And a lot of the times I'd like to work with someone that doesn't know a lot because I can really teach that person. Renee, what are your thoughts on, when, and I don't know how much of this you've seen yet, though I know you've got some pretty advanced, experienced people. Have you gotten anyone that's been a little bit stubborn because they've been doing it their way, quote unquote, their way so long? Sometimes that's tough. I like a newer client myself, but if you could speak on that just a little bit.
I've had the privilege of working with people who've been bodybuilding for 10 plus years, and also the lifestyle mom who is going through perimenopause and doesn't know what a macro is.
Yes.
So I've had the pleasure to work with all of those people. And honestly, I just love to educate. And I think that is what is the most exciting thing for me, is to educate people. And whether it is that first, that person who is just figuring out like what are proteins, carbs, and fats, and what are some good lifestyle habits. I really enjoy working with them because you can change their life. You can change the trajectory of their life and make health a priority. And then they get all of the things they've ever wished for in their life because health comes first. And they can fill other people's buckets because they're healthy as well. But I also really love working with bodybuilders because you can get really nerdy and in the weeds, and you can help advance some of those things that they already know. You can compound and teach them something else. They might have had one or two or three or four other coaches, but I can bring a different perspective that they might not have seen before, and or some, attention that they might not have gotten from some other coaches too. You just never know. There's always going to be that right fit of a coach out there for you. So
Yeah,
Yeah, there.
sorry, go ahead, John.
Oh, I was just going to say there's also a lot of fun that can be had when you get someone who's either been coached by numerous coaches or somebody that's been doing it their own for a long time. As a coach out there, you can have a lot of fun because you get to collab with that person and you get nerdy and you get to try and do different things. Um, I mean, at this point, Renee, you and I do a lot of that stuff. Like, there's lots of times I'll ask for your feedback. I'll be like, hey, what do you think? Like, do you feel like you're ready for more food? Because we have you eating a lot of food. Let's not lie. Like you're eating a
my
lot.
Lord.
Yeah, she's eating a lot. But I get to collab with someone like Renee, right? To where it's not just always my way or the highway. Do you enjoy that collaboration piece? I know I do. I like to ask for feedback and then try and come up with different ways to do stuff.
I do. And you know what? As a client, I think it's okay to want that back and forth as well with your coach.
Mm.
I really do enjoy that, because I am a little bit more educated, and I've honestly everything, both you, Lisa, and John, I mean, I've learned so much from both of you that I take and help my clients with. But I do love that back and forth. I do love that collaboration. But I think there can also be a time as a client too where you really want to collaborate or ask a question, but you maybe are a little afraid to approach your coach about that because you don't want to come off as questioning them, or you don't want to come off as like you don't like believe the process, which is not the case at all. Any good coach is going to understand that those questions are there because you're really interested and you're invested in your own progress and you want to learn more. And every good coach should want to teach it to you. So
Yeah,
I'd
that was
say,
actually one of
as
the
a
points I
client,
was gonna raise earlier in the sense of like communication. I think is in either scenario, whether you're new or an experienced athlete, communicating with your coach well or asking a lot of questions like why have you set my macros where they are? Why are we increasing, this and that here? Why do you recommend this sort of meal timing or not? Those are totally not just legit questions. You should ask those questions. And likewise, the more information you're providing, like in your check-ins, like, hey, last week I was really constipated. Like I often have clients saying like, this might be TMI, but I'm like, there's no such thing. Like I want to know all this stuff, and it's not just that I want to know, I need to know all this stuff. So please communicate. And even more so as an experienced person, like if you're kind of having those doubts, because I think as a more experienced person, you're kind of like maybe comparing to your previous coaches, or as you mentioned before, it's harder to trust the process. Maybe you want to steer the ship a little bit more yourself, and it's hard to let go of those reins. But if you're having doubts, why not say to your coach, like, I'm kind of uncomfortable with this change, but maybe you can explain to me why you want me to do that, and then I'm jumping on board and I'll trust you. And I think sometimes just recognizing that anything that we're not familiar with, we might not see results immediately, but like having that trust throughout the discomfort and just acknowledging that if I want to see different results than with my 10 other coaches beforehand, I need to do stuff differently. It might just take a while for my body to adjust, even if it's several weeks.
Absolutely. I love that.
So, do
I,
you have a client that comes to mind where you were like, she was like the textbook of being coachable, and she had like 5, 10 traits where I'm like, I wish everybody had those.
Yes, I do have one person that comes to mind. She is extremely coachable, and we have just made huge progress. Some of those things that really make her coachable is she did question the process because it was so different than what she has been taught in her entire life and the things that she had been doing. Obviously, what she had been doing in the past to try to lose weight and things. This is a lifestyle client I'm talking about. Things that she had done to try to lose weight, you know, on textbook, they look like they're right. They look like they're the right things. They sound like it makes sense, but it just wasn't working over these all of these years. And so honestly, I had her do the complete opposite of what she had been doing. And so she questioned the process. But she realized that, you know, I got to, like what you just said, I've got to do something different in order to get different results. And so she followed the program. She checked in on time. She was overly communicative about what she was experiencing, those that biofeedback that's so important. If she was having a mental struggle that day with the scale or something, she was not afraid to tell me about it. Other things that made her super successful was if she tracked her food. She was like an elite tracker. She monitored her progress in the gym. She pushed herself harder than she'd ever pushed herself before. And when she wanted to quit, because let's face it, at some point in time we all want to,
yeah.
she communicated that with me and we talked her through it, and so she just didn't. And those are some things that made her very successful and where she's at today.
Amazing.
Lisa, do you have anyone that comes to mind? I've got a couple people I'd like to shout out real quick and just give a couple examples. I think that's good. So we talk about a variety of different people on here. I think of probably the earliest person that I had that really moved the needle for me was Matt Holcomb in 2011. He was very legit on the natural bodybuilding scene. That guy ate everything. Now, this is a show prep, right? To a T. He never veered from it. I was able to post his results all over social media, and he was able to win a pro card and go on and do big things. And that helped skyrocket my business. But that guy followed everything to a T. I called him our standard bearer for so long. He did everything to a T. And I was able to learn how things really worked when someone's following a plan. And I talk about this all the time. Like, you're only as good as how close you follow your macros and do your workouts and track your stuff, right? So like, he was someone for me that moved the needle. And then I think, obviously Renee, you've been one. Carrie Ferris is another, someone I never worry about. Like, you and her are two perfect examples of current clients. Like, I never worry about anything because you guys are going to eat your food. You're going to get your sleep. You're going to get labs done. I know you're training hard. Like, you're doing all those things. And as a coach, that's allowed me to learn quite a bit just working with people like you. So I think there's a lot to be said from a business standpoint when you have clients like that.
Mhm.
Man, they really open up the door for you to learn. and to be able to promote that and promote what you learn. So, Lisa, do you have anybody like that that sticks out
Yeah,
to you?
I have several lifestyle clients come to mind actually, and what they all had in common is just complete ownership and never making excuses or blaming someone else. So not like saying, "Oh, but there was no other food there available," or "I couldn't pack this and that." It's just complete resourcefulness as well, and that's actually like something I read just recently. One of the traits someone should hire for, you should not necessarily hire for, team capacity and whatnot. It's yes, that's important too, but hiring for resourcefulness. So basically, in everyday language, someone who just gets stuff figured out, like a problem or something that seems like an obstacle occurs, like a weekend trip, or I've run out of this and that food. They just simply think about, okay, I'm going to Google a solution to this. I'm going to hire a meal prep service. I'm going to, like they are resourceful no matter what. And I think that's a really, really important trait or a good trait that someone can actually, it's not something you're born with. You can also, kind of cultivate that actually. So I guess on the
Yeah.
flip side, Renee, are there certain traits that come to mind where you're like, those were always the clients that were struggling?
Oh yeah, I've got a couple of those too. I think everybody does. All of the coaches have a really good mix of people, but I think some red flags maybe of people who or some behaviors of people who might not be as successful is just like what you said, Lisa, but on the opposite end. They do make those excuses. Oh, I had this party I had to go to, but I couldn't take my food, or I had to work late, so or my schedule got messed up, and so I couldn't hit the gym, or I couldn't get my steps in, or they don't take that ownership. Some other red flags that I've noticed with a couple other clients who aren't as successful and not as coachable, where um, they maybe don't follow the meal plan because it's just different than what they're used to. And so they just stick to their old habits. And they're always asking for changes to their workout regimen because they're bored, or so just kind of taking those principles of boring consistency, and that's what's going to make you the best. Being really, really good at being consistent. They haven't quite understand that yet or grasped that concept. So they'll get there, though. I know.
What about you, John? Any contra examples coming to mind?
No, boy, you're gonna get my clients are gonna get pissed off at me. So the funny thing is if I put out a post talking about how to be successful and what some of the things are that hold people back, believe it or not, I do have clients that end up dropping me as a coach. So am I cutting out or you guys hear me okay? Is it still good? So I actually have people that get upset with that because they feel like I'm calling them out. I'm not calling them out. I'm calling out behaviors. I'm trying to help educate other coaches because at this point I'm like 20 years in. I'm just trying to give people ways to get better. So some of this stuff, like my clients listening, like chill out. I'm not talking about you, but I'm talking about the behavior. So if the shoe fits, let's fix the behavior, right? So probably the one of the biggest things I get on the Gen Pop side is just people think that the approach is too extreme. And when I talk about, I don't try and have my bodybuilding clients that step on stage tracking is a 9.5 to 10 out of 10. Like you've got to eat to the macro. You can't be eating out Subway every day and trying to track it. Like you can, but your results are not going to be as good if we don't know exactly what you're eating. So that's extreme, right? Because bodybuilding, competitive bodybuilding is an extreme effort. Now, on the Gen Pop side, I tell them on a scale of 1 to 10, you need to strive to hit a 9 out of 10. Like if you need to go out and eat with your family, I can program that in. Like we're gonna have very specific meals that you go out and eat. But when you're dieting, you're all in on dieting. So if you're gonna hit like a 6 or a 7 on a scale of 1 out of 10, and you're not making progress, you've got my first change is always I need you to dial your macros in, prepare the food that you're going to eat. Don't go out and eat multiple times a week. Let's dial this in. Don't eat off plan, first of all. Like, don't just go eat a bunch of cookies or something. And a lot of people say, well, that's too extreme. I want to be able to get the results, but I don't want to be that extreme.
Mhm.
Well, sometimes if you're not getting results, you might have to dial it in more. So that's probably one of the mindsets that people don't understand is when it's time to diet, you've got to go all in. And each person's level of extreme is different, right? But if that means that's what you have to do, when you're done dieting, that's when there's more room for balance and flexibility. So I'll just that's the only one I'll say for now because I could start listing a ton.
We don't
Um,
want to get you in trouble.
yeah, well, yeah, I'm old cranky ass Gorman, like old red ass Gorman. So we got to be careful here.
Well, my point actually falls right in line with that, with people that are like interested in changing, but they're not committed. They're like, they see the progress pictures, they see the before and afters, and like, oh, I want that. And you're like, okay, but are you committed? Or are you just interested? Like they sign up and they like subconsciously or sometimes consciously think that just them paying you means that that's going to give them results. Like just having the perfect set of macros, having the perfect training program, and they're not as focused on the execution. I think that's a big one. So people should really consider beforehand, is this the right time in my life to go through a dieting phase? Or even more so if you're planning to step on stage, is this the right time in my life to commit to this? And if the answer is no, I would rather they don't sign up right now and be honest with themselves and just, or maybe they just say, okay, I will sign up with Renee, but I'm just going to practice staying at maintenance, maintaining what I've got so far and focusing on health. I know the summer's busy, we're traveling with the family. I want to get some good habits in, but it's not the perfect time to be dieting. I think there's still some progress to be made with a 7 out of 10 sort of effort, but you can't expect 10 out of 10 results if you're putting in 7. So yeah, just kind of being honest with yourself. Um, I guess on that note, with regards to like client and coach, is there something where you would say a lot of people misunderstand or don't know that about a client coach relationship, which you think would be quite important to grasp?
That's a really great question. Um, I think it's really important that you understand that, you've hired this person, you've hired this coach to educate you and get you to, from point A to point B. John, I think you've said this before, where a client is going to become a friend a lot faster than a friend is going to become a client. And so you can, having a coach and hiring a coach, and with the open communication that is required with a coaching relationship, you can become friends quite quickly with your coach. But respect those boundaries, I think, is one of those things too that anybody should, when you hire a coach for the first time, understand like you are going to become friends with this person, but also realize this is the coach, this is their business, and they might have 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 more clients just like you as well that they're also becoming friends with because of the nature of, all of the TMI conversations that you have every
Yeah.
day. So I would just say like respect those boundaries, and realize that, it's probably not appropriate to text a coach at 10 o'clock at night, because they're with their families and that sort of thing. So that's one little thing I'd like to say.
It's tough when you become very close, especially, if I think about myself. I also bring on coaches as part of my other companies, right? And I do a lot of business, whether it's Premier You Telemed or it's Fat Muscle, obviously, right? With all three of us here, like we're all part of the Fat Muscle team, right? But when you coach someone, but they're also part of those processes, coaches have to be aware of that boundary too, because you let things get a little bit too lax, right? And then somebody gets offended when you got to like jump in their ass. Jason Wells is a perfect example. Good friend of mine, but him and I have always been really good about that because if I had to dig in his ass a little bit and be like, with him, it was never a diet. It was like pushing himself too far, too hard, low sleep. The guy's busy, multiple businesses. Like I'd have to dig in his ass and I'd have to like hit him with it. And he was always okay with that. But sometimes people aren't able to make that delineation, right? Because it can be a little slippery slope. So that to me is always one that's kind of tough.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. Just having clear boundaries and making clear from the beginning, hey, my hours when I will respond to you are from this and that time, or allow for some time for me to get back to you. I'll respond within 24 hours or not on the weekend or whatever. Like the clearer you communicate with your client as well, the better. So is there something, or what would you recommend, Renee, if a client is kind of feeling stuck or frustrated with their coach or just with how the coaching is going at the moment?
You have to just overly communicate that to the client or to your coach. And there's going to be a solution. There always is. I had a great conversation with a client just yesterday, how she was just feeling a little frustrated because I think to your point earlier, John, the program that I gave her was maybe a little bit too robust at the moment for her and her current life. And so we just came up with a plan together because she communicated that with me, and she was like, I just really want to come up with some little wins throughout the day so that I can snowball those efforts into being really successful. So overly communicate that to your coach. And I think also, going back to your original question, Lisa, one of the things that hiring a coach, and you do become really close with that person, and you can say a lot of things, but also know what the coach's scope of work is. uh,
Hmm.
don't think that because you are close to this coach and you're talking about digestion and hormones and all of these things that yes, we can help with some emotional support, but we're not therapists. There are coaches out there who are therapists, like Laura Conlon, that we had at the Fat Muscle Academy a few weeks ago. But there are people out there that do that. But also just know, like, what is your coach's expertise? And yes, we can certainly help you overcome some mental blocks. We have a lot of tools in our toolbox to be able to do that. But coaching isn't therapy. Don't expect your coach to be a therapist. And as a coach, if you have a client that is coming to you with some things that you are not equipped to handle, by all means, please be comfortable enough to refer them on to somebody to get some help that you might not be able to provide.
Yeah, protect yourself because there's just recently I had a client, she hurt her back. And, I wasn't about to write a workout plan because her back was down and what exercises she couldn't get. I'm not there with her in person. I'm also not a physical therapist. You want to get shredded, you want to put muscle on and hold on, like you want to do that and like optimize the way your physique looks. I'm your guy. But if you need someone to help you work around injury or come back from a shoulder surgery and know what exercise, hell no. Like I am nowhere qualified to do something like that. And I think a lot of coaches, they're afraid to say, hey, I don't know, especially now, like everyone's a hormone coach, everyone's a gut health expert, everyone's a therapist. Like you nailed it, Renee. It's one of those things. Don't be afraid to say no, because what's also going to happen is now you're going to pile so much work trying to handle everybody's stuff that you're not qualified to handle. It's actually going to hurt your business long term. So just stick to your expertise, protect yourself.
And it
Yeah.
also weighs on you as a coach too, because you want to help so people so much. And if you don't say, I'm really not equipped to handle that, it's not in my training, it's not, I don't have education to help with that. And you do try to take on some of those, questions and concerns of your client, man, it's stressful, and so then, it can impede your own personal success in what you want to do for physique wise or business wise, just like you said. So.
Yeah, and
What
I
do you
think
think about
even
having
just, oh, go ahead.
I was going to ask both of you, what do you two think of having resources, a nice collaborative unit of different people to be able to send people to if they need help with hormones, if they need help with therapy, if they need help with gut health, if they need all these different things. Like what do you all have that yourself? I know I do, even though I've kind of created my own, right? Because we now have the clinics and stuff like that. Before that I needed somewhere to send people out for hormones like advanced vitality with Theobald. But like, do either one of you have stuff like that you resource out?
Yeah, I'm so grateful that you're now connected with Premier U and that you've introduced all of us to Jordan and the whole team there because That is like, at least in the States available, is now my go-to source as well. I've only had positive feedback, honestly, in
Yeah.
regards to that company. I will be honest, I don't have anyone that I refer to in terms of therapy, just because I think that is something that where people do benefit often from doing that in person, like actually going to a therapist, not just
Yeah.
online. And so depending on where they are, since I also work with people in Europe and Dubai and whatnot, it's just more practical if they actually look for someone there. But yeah, I think having a network is super, super valuable as a coach.
Yeah, being a functional health coach, I have a cohort of people that I can ask at any given time, put out questions into this cohort, and hopefully they give some really nice responses back and some ideas that I haven't thought of to help clients through some tough times. So having a community is, I think, what gives value to your particular coach. So if you're looking for a coach, ask them that question when you interview many different coaches, which I also recommend you should if you're looking to hire. Ask them, do you have a collaborative resource of people that you can reach out to? Because by all means, we do not know everything. So it's nice to be able to reach out to our network.
I was
I,
actually going to say the same thing that you just mentioned. Do your research well before you hire or before you decide on a coach, because I think it's very important that you actually resonate at least on some level with the coach. Otherwise, if it's not a person that you want to quote unquote please, and I mean like just you want to do it right for them as well, like that really helps if it's someone you're looking up to. It doesn't need to be the exact like a role model or so, but just someone you respect. You're gonna put in more effort, a better you're gonna trust them more than if it's someone super random, you haven't spoken to them, you don't actually like the way that they're leading their life, and you're like, oh yeah, whatever. So yeah, do your research well.
I want to say two real quick things because I know we're getting kind of close to wrapping this up. First of all, when Lauren Conlon is ready, when she is all ready to start taking people on, Lauren and I had a session together down in Florida. We did it through Zoom. We had a session together because I'm close friends with Lauren. I was able to talk about some stuff with her. And one, I wanted to see, hey, who am I going to be sending my clients to? I'm telling you, when she's ready, you all need to get with Lauren. Like she lives a lifestyle. This is her expertise. She's probably going to stay full just from people like us that send people to her. Like, I can't wait for her to get ready. But going back to one other thing, people that are going to be hiring a coach, there's so many times people just hire coaches based on their reputation and what they see on social media, especially in the bodybuilding world. Good Lord, there's so many coaches out there that work with the most genetically elite athletes on the planet that have a different medicine cabinet than you might have, right? There's people that work with the elite in the bodybuilding world that they don't know how to get the mom of three that just wants to get into a swimsuit the same results because they don't understand hormones, they don't understand menopause, they don't understand those things. So I always recommend this. Email a bunch of different coaches, ask a bunch of questions. When you don't get responses back in a timely manner or the answers you want, don't work with those coaches. So you learn a lot whenever you go to not apply, but just inquire with a coach. I'm telling you right now, you're getting an email back from me that day. And I can't tell you how many people have been like, oh, wow, you emailed me back so fast. And they thank me for that because their current coach or no one else is answering back that fast. Huge, huge green light, like good thing, right? Green flag. We're going to talk about green flags and red flags. I see coming up next, but interview people. Renee, I'm sure you've been shopped, right? Lisa, I'm sure someone's shopped you and they're trying to, and and they say, hey, I just want to let you know I'm talking to other coaches. I love it when they tell me that because I'm really going to dig in and ask them questions and give them answers. I do that anyway, but how important has that been for you as far as like getting clients, especially you, Renee, because yours has really grown here lately? How important has that interaction been when someone applies or inquires with you?
I absolutely love the fact that they're doing their due diligence and they're interviewing other coaches. Uh, it is a very personal relationship that you are entering into. And if you are not the right fit for that person and they're not the right fit for you, like it's just, you're not going to get as much progress out of the relationship and out of your investment that you're making in yourself. So, yeah, I love it. when people do that due diligence and really ask those tough questions to a coach, you're going to know, like if you start firing questions and put them under the gun a little bit, you're going to see how they handle a little bit of pressure. You're going to see what their philosophy is. Does it align with what your philosophy is? And if so, great. You might be a good fit, but if not, what can you learn from that coach that can maybe change your shape of mind as well? So definitely, I don't care how many you interview, 5, 10, 20. It really is up to you. But I say email, get on the phone, talk to somebody, see if you're just a good fit, follow them on social media, see if they're living the life. So definitely do due diligence.
Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah, so let's touch on our last question, and we basically already sort of summarized a lot of those points, but what would you say are some green flags that someone is ready for successful coaching, or on the flip side, what might be some red flags that someone is not ready?
I'm going to start with red flags. I'll start with those. You're not ready for a coach if you expect immediate results. You're just not. Um, and you have to be realistic with your turnaround or your time frame of getting those results. Whether it's losing weight, gaining muscle, stepping on stage, it's always going to take a little bit longer. I mean, if you think about it, when you hire or when you start a new client as a coach, 4 to 8 weeks, you're still getting to know each other. You're still getting to know how their body responds to stimulus. How much food are they eating every day? And how does that, play on the scale and what they look like in their energy and their hormones and their digestion and all those things. You're getting to know each other. And if they only sign up for, say, 3 months, you only have a few weeks left to make any progress after you've figured out each other. It's just as much for the client to figure out the coach as it is the coach to figure out the client. So I would say having unrealistic turnaround or expectations for the results is kind of a red flag. And another red flag, if you're not willing to change your behavior to track your macros, to follow a meal plan, to go to the gym and follow the workout, or do the things that your coach is asking you to do, and just listen and receive that feedback without being offended that someone is giving you some feedback, you're also then not ready to be coached.
I will. I'm just going to do one thing. I'm just going to highlight what I see the differences are between my most successful clients and my clients that don't have as much success. And I've noticed a huge correlation here. I've talked about this on social quite a bit. I don't know if I mentioned it on a podcast. My most successful clients are the ones that check in on time. They check in on the days they're supposed to check in. They send the stuff that I ask them to send. They're not scattered. Like everything is typically to a T, right? On the flip side, I notice that my clients that don't check in on time, they check in on instead of a Monday, Thursday, they check in on a Wednesday, and maybe it's once a week, and they're constantly lots of exclamation points in their emails and lots of, hey, I'm sorry this is late. I'm rushing, I'm running around, I'm super busy. It's a lot of that rush, 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 high stress. But to me, it tells me if they're not even organized enough to send me a damn email on time, how are they organized enough to be hitting their macros and prepping their own food, right? Which they're not. So I see a lot of people that they're just kind of all over the place squirrel. Those are the people that get the lower end of the results. And I've just put that together over the course of almost 2 decades now. So when I see that, those are the people I lean into more, and I ask a lot more questions. How much sleep are you getting every night on a scale 1 to 10? How are you doing with your food? How much are you eating out? Those types of things. But it's always the people that I would just say in the Army, we call it squared away. When someone was squared away, their uniform looked good, like everything was squared, they were prepared, they had their notes ready. Like those type of people, they get the best results. People that are organized. So I guess going back to that, if you know that a client set up for success, someone that's organized and well put together, they're going to get the best results. Just that just goes hand in hand.
It just shows what their priorities are, doesn't it? Like if they're
Yeah.
if they're not even sending you that email, that quick little thing, you can tell that they have sort of deprioritized nutrition or messaging you and like have allowed other things like work or just family life or whatever to take over, and it's no longer on their top. So yeah, I think that's a very good
Yeah.
indication.
Mhm.
There's one other thing I want to make sure that I bring up, and it's going to be in the show notes, and I know we'll have some final comments. But speaking of food, Renee, you have the most amazing meal prep books that you published yourself. I want to make sure we're going to link those in the show notes. You can get those on Amazon. I have all three. Amazing, amazing. It lists snacks. It lists everything from protein, carbs, and fats to some really good meals. I wanted, before I got off this podcast, that Lisa and I talked about this. And Lisa, you're a foodie, so like you're probably the biggest foodie here. I don't know if you've gotten a chance to be able to see those, and I don't even know if you can get them where you're at, but we've posted pictures and stuff. They're awesome.
Yeah, and
Thank-
I love the recipes that you share on social as well, Renee. So everyone listening absolutely has to go and follow Renee for just a quick sneak peek into those books. But yeah, tell us what inspired you to write these cookbooks.
Well, I just have a lot of clients asking me for, I need recipes for this and recipes for that. But can I just be real honest with you? Okay, so I did, get those cookbooks, published on Amazon, but I don't eat that way. I really don't. I keep it simple. I am
Yeah.
just, I do love a good meal. I do love a lot of ingredients and things like that, but I just really like to keep it simple. I know I shared just yesterday, just or maybe it was this morning. Honestly, like I said, we don't know what day it is. I shared like I just put crock pot chicken, in a Tupperware container. Like that's how I eat. But one of my favorite recipes in one of my cookbooks is the pizza recipe, and it's just
Mhm.
making pizza dough with Greek yogurt and some flour and rolling that out, and putting your toppings on it. And I mean, it's delicious and easy and fast and takes less than 20 minutes to have a really nice pizza in the oven. So that's one of the recipes that's probably my favorite out of all three cookbooks. But so thanks for the shout out, John. I appreciate that.
Yeah, well, it's super accurate because if you're one of my clients listening, you can put any of those meals together. You can be in prep. Like those are trustworthy meals, and they're not overly advanced. They're not too complicated as well.
No, no, they're not advanced, but
Yeah,
anybody
I
can
mean, they're
do
not
it.
like Renee. You're I'm going to say this affectionately because I think we're kind of a bro. Like you're just going to pair a protein, a carb, and make it simple, and you're just going to roll, right? Like you're not going to make this big
Yeah.
elaborate thing. But anyway, those are definitely something I want to make sure that we brought up. Lisa, what else? What else do we need to talk about here before
I
we
think
wrap up?
that's pretty much it. I think we've hit a lot of good points here with Renee. I'm really, really excited and grateful that you came on, and I have no doubt that you brought some value to the listeners here. I think the only thing that comes to mind was the amazing summer protein and EAAs and so on that you currently have in stock. John, I know you don't like to necessarily toot your own horn or shout your own products out, but people should go and check that out as well.
Yeah,
They're amazing. They're so good.
today's been it's been such a fun episode. Renee, obviously, we're going to have you back on because there's a whole host of different things we can talk about. Even if we have you on for a Q and A, I'd love to have like a coaches Q roundtable Q&A to talk about some of the different things that we have going out there. But other than that, this has been great. Hit us up, send a message, whatever you want to hear, topics, people. We'll keep these dropping every 2 weeks. From myself, Lisa, and Renee, we're out of here. See you guys.